Oh, wooga! Oh, woo. Hello. Or more accurately, hello, my souls, and welcome back to the Writer's Nook. Hey, Leica. Hey, Nix. Oh, woo. Nix, I don't know that I summoned you, but at the same time, I mean, I know calling out that I'm live and working on the book again is probably going to be a thing for a lot of people and a lot of the Athorian players. Also, hello, Nix. Hello, Leica. Hello, Aiden. Hello, Andy. Hello, Robert. Oh, woo. Give me a moment as I prepare to let my brain out all over the page. Oh, and I forgot entirely. Oh, I can't do that. Okay. So, because I'm working on an adult rated thing, and by the way, the reason that's adult rated, or the reason why this story has been adult rated, is because Northern Continent in this particular setting is oh wait, can I? Yes, I can. Hold on. I cannot. Oh my god. By the way, oh fuck me. Oh. By the way, yes, there is a reason why you would find throwing swords. Depending on how it's thrown, there's also several cultures that do throw swords. So that's a thing. By the way, I'm getting everything like ready. I'm going to insert a horizontal rule there because it's going to be a scene break. My days are going pretty good. Robert, how about you? Understand fencing is more a sport than a combat strategy. Anyone who fences on a battlefield is a moron. And yes, I know. I just attacked an entire culture. Why is my food always gone? All right. So before we get far into this, there we are. Let's do a recap for the last area of the, or I'll do a recap for the last scene. So Harasa, her voice wasn't the first thing that woke. It wasn't the first thing that woke me, nor was it how that name she'd given me still grated on my nerves, but rather the volume with which her second Harasa echoed off the walls of my bedchamber. When my eyes snapped open, it was to the image of a nearly naked Inari woman in the doorway, or in my doorway. I'm going to adjust that. In my doorway, her amber fur and soot black markings hardly visible through the haze of sunlight cascading in from behind her. It was a familiar sight, but for some reason today I couldn't help the thought that escaped me in that moment. Why do you always wake me before you've dressed yourself? I asked, the words escaping me nearly as quickly as the thoughts could form. I realized far too late what the answer to my groggy question would be, of course. Ah. If it wasn't for the motion of her gripping something at her side, or the sound of that old wooden handle squeaking, it would be the sensation of the freezing cold water splashing over me that finally brought my mind to a proper state of alertness. Unlike my tribal cousins, you see, my fur is far finer. It lacks the density that theirs. It lacks the density theirs does, and because of that, it took no time at all for the water to reach my flesh beneath. No, to reach the flesh beneath. I don't know if it was because of the shriek I let out as I sprang from my hammock, or something else entirely, but I could have sworn I heard her almost laugh as she spoke. I called your name 5 times, Harasa. That's not mine. It's the name the tribe has given you. Now get up and get washed. Even with a voice as soft as the finest silk, there was no arguing with Madame Gale when something needed to be done. After all, even if she couldn't manage to sound intimidating to save her life, her tone didn't matter so much. As long as she could get her paws on something useful. This, by the way, is what I mean when I say that I typically edit, like, as I go. I'll be doing recaps every time I go past a scene, to go through and effectively reread and adjust things to sound right in my brain. Now that this is where my brain is weird. It is getting weird. Do I want to start off with her bathing, or do I want to start off with her entering into the uh inn for the first time that morning after bathing? Because realistically, I can go into detail on what bathing in this place would be like. I hate you. A woo? You are an asshole thingy. There we go. I mean, I can set the scene either way. Thanks for the, you know, redundant question. I could literally set the scene either way. The difference would be one would be in a courtyard, or not in a courtyard. One would be outside, one would be inside. And if I started with one, it would add length instead. But, hey, Heather. Hmm. Finally tackling the kitchen sink. I mean, okay. I don't know why you would be tackling the sink. That sounds like it would be physically painful. And at that point, you'd want to wash them, not tackle them. I'm aware. What's up, Leica? Ooh, I just had a thought. I mean, Leica, that's kind of the point that I was about to, or the thing that I was about to mention was Jesus fucking Christ, Nix. You are like the epitome of distraction right now. Oh, that's the thing. Uh that's very much the thing. There isn't much to bathing in this particular culture. There's no hot water. Like it it's literally a bucket river. Oh god. Oh, okay, so one of the things that you have to understand about when I write, I'm getting myself into the mindset of the main character, which this is a pain in the ass for me because you had to make the main character a woman. And part of the concept for these books is to teach you guys about the world of Ithorian, so it would be an interesting concept to explain what a bath would be like in tribal society. Even on the fringes, it's like even on the southern fringe, it would be like basic amenities would not exist. Because where this character grew up, she would have grown up with things like soap. Like she would have grown up with soaps that scent, or with like small luxuries. In tribal society, their equivalent of soap is rendered fat. It's rendered fat, and that's about it. You would effectively take it, wet your fur, rake it through your fur, and just scrape. And it should, theoretically, as you're going through it, remove the dirt and grime out of your fur. It wouldn't work quite the same way. I mean, they'd also technically add one of these plants to the fat that would sort of strangely change it. No. Uh I mean possibly, but it's more of a well, I mean they would have a cloth for wetting their fur at first. And this, by the way, is where my this is where I get information for setting these scenes, by the way. This is why I wanted to have people that I can, look over and chat with. Doing this is because this is how I work through all of this. This is a world that I've created. No, it wouldn't so much be leather. It would be more like a woven reed cloth. Really, really fucking weird. Because the point of the cloth would not be so much to distribute the oily crap that is meant to come off your fur. It's more of a cloth in bucket to wet fur. Cloth gets hung up to dry. Uh because if you used a cloth for this and you were a creature with fur, you'd be getting the top fur with a cloth, but you wouldn't actually be getting in there and getting the undercoat or getting the actual fur. You'd be doing effectively a top gloss and then rinsing it off. Um Tribal society, comb would be a comb would be something that the mistress would have or the madam would have, but not her slaves. Understand, this main character is a slave to effectively a middle class woman who runs a inn on the fringe or in the fringe lands between entirely tribal territories where she's from and then the settled territories where the main character's from. there would technically be two cloths. There would be one that would be meant for essentially getting the water on, and then a different, bigger, coarser one, more than likely, after the bucket is, overturned on yourself to get the water and oil off. No, Nix. It would be more for getting the oil off the top coat. It would leave some of the oil underneath if you have, or if you're a species that has an undercoat, which would make your fur a little more water resistant, a little more, uh, weirdly enough, impact resistant, I guess. But we're also dealing with, this is a fennec. Fennecs don't have an undercoat. So you're also trying to think that this is a character who doesn't have an undercoat. This is a washing method that's designed for somebody with an undercoat. That's gonna feel nasty. Like, I shit you not, this is a species. Like, the difference between these two cultures is Madame Gale's culture would use this, like, washing method that's meant for somebody with an undercoat to treat the undercoat and remove the top oil so you would look nice. Whereas Harasa or Haley comes from a culture where they probably wouldn't. I mean, Fennec, she probably wouldn't have used normal, like, soaps. She would have used dusts. Uh, no, this is one of the settled areas, and then she's a Fennec, so she's not Halaran. She's probably an Imperial, which would mean that she's more likely to bathe using special dusts and powders that they would effectively brush into their fur and then shake out and, like, dust off of themselves. Uh, since there's no undercoat needed to treat, all they would need to do is effectively, yeah. So understand, this would be like, oh god. Okay, so imagine, if you could, the sensation of washing your hair with lard with some plant extracts in it that have been crushed up. So it's lard with effectively herbs mixed into it that you have to work through your hair down to the root and along all of your hair. Douse yourself in cold ass water to get all of the herbs out of your hair, and then take a kind of coarse, almost wiry towel and effectively comb through your hair with it. Now imagine that sensation on your entire body. For a species with an undercoat, they would not feel it on their flesh. They would feel it on their undercoat, they wouldn't feel it on the flesh. But for somebody who doesn't have an undercoat, this would be straight up slathering lard on your skin. I think I know where I'm starting off. this is where I need to do a thing. Because I need to check something. I've discovered where this girl is from. So, this, by the way, is a map of Ithorian, or the civilized world of Ithorian. I should point out, this is Marthala. This is the continent that this young woman would be from. Up here is part of the southern tip of the northern continent. And she would be probably from Amaron or Amaron. I hate that that happened. Metalworking. Okay. So, if this character is from Amaron, or Amaron, then they would have metalwork there. They actually have very good metalworking there. Northern continent? Nope. Barely able to do metal. The most affluent tribes will have things like bronze and copper. So, along the quote unquote settled lands, the southernmost part of the continent, yeah, there's metal. There's basic amenities. This character is a slave on the fringe lands between tribal lands and the quote unquote civilized lands. And because there is a shaky truce, so to speak, between the tribals and the settlers, the settlers can't go and rescue her. Like, by the tribal law, the settlers cannot go rescue her because she's not technically a slave. She's lifebound, which means somebody chose to save her life. That person now effectively owns her until the day they're released. So technically, yeah, it's weird. Hmm. By the way, sorry I haven't been looking over at chat for a little bit. Ramon, what comment? Uh, this is when you guys are going to see me Google something. Uno momento. I hate this fucking thing. Why? There we go! I mean, some do. Alright. So this book is going to feel a little bit like an internal monologue. So, normally there wouldn't be much to tell about the process of a morning bath. Back home in Amaron, it would be a lavish affair, with scented powders and fine stone dusts to help lift the dirt and oils away from my fur. Oh, how I have longed for such comfort, but it's a far cry from what I've come to know as bathing in these accursed lands. If the fact that water is involved wasn't enough in the first place, the substance they insist I worked through my fur each time would make most Imperial citizens wince. The texture of the grayish-white sludge they call soap can only be described as slimy. At very least, they try to hide the nauseating aroma by mixing in various local flowers and herbs, though it's hard to mask the smell of rendered animal fats once they've gone rancid. Oh, by the way, for the record, uh, since it's probably not going to be fully explained or understood by the people reading this without context given, and that's kind of part of what I want from this book is I want people asking, well, what is life like for them then? So you guys are probably wondering how you take a bath with things like dust and powder. Yeah? Like, tell me, does that confuse any of you? Like how you would take a bath with no water? Yes and no. So, it's not so much you rub it on your skin. More accurately, it would be uh a bath in this particular in Amaron or in Amaron would be it would be an actual basin. So you'd have the basin, like you'd have a tub sort of thing, but there'd be no water involved. The tub would be lined with this sort of leather, or it would be this leathery substance that you would line the basin with it, and then over that you would have a mixture of uh fine powders that would be things like a mixture of ash and flowers and what have you, or starches mixed with coarser uh, stone dust. And you'd have about a layer that thick or so above that above the leathery part. So there would be enough that you could like get your foot down. Well, actually, it would probably be about that thick. There would be enough that you could get yourself down into it a little bit and like lay back and just sort of run your body through it, and it'd be like think more lavish version of a what's it called? Dust bath. Like you guys have seen fennec foxes take a dust bath, yeah? Well, think of what a dust bath would be like for an anthro. You'd have enough dust there that you get parts of your body underneath it. There'd be enough space in the basin that you could, rub up against it and uh what's the word? Yeah. So it would be like this wide basin with scented dust, effectively. Scented rock dust. That would work like an exfoliant that would also help get oil and stuff away. Uh the dust would probably have to be changed once or twice a month, but like that's only if it's being used every day too. Uh yeah. Lack of water, yeah. Did you know there was actually a lot of and this is actually one of the ways that Draconis would bathe is there are some cultures from the northern continent and from the empire in uh Ithorian that bathe in oil. Like they will have special types of mineral oils that they will bathe in by submerging themselves in and scrubbing underneath the oil to let anything like dust or dirt wise to effectively get things up and out from underneath their scales. Kinda. Think like mineral oil bath, like just straight up bathe in oil long enough for the dust and dirt to kind of get scrubbed off and then get up and wipe the oil away. So Draconis, their cultures would literally have these giant fucking basins of mineral oil. Like think giant communal bath. Where it's just you go in, strip down, oil up, scrub, get up and just kind of wipe yourself off and get dressed. You're assuming that any culture would use sponges for that sort of thing in this particular world. I mean, realistically, if you're talking Aquians, they might, but no. They Aquians bathe in a weird way too. Do you know what a thermal bath is? Like, do you know what a thermal bathing is? It's effectively subjecting your body to water that is hot enough to just about burn your flesh, but not quite. And it's just repeatedly subjecting your body to it to effectively burn away uh like dead skin or what have you, or parasites or various for Aqueans it would be more a worry of algae because they spend most of their time underwater. So quite literally, Aqueans would bathe by finding a thermal vent and effectively running their body through the thermal vent. They would have to make sure not to keep their body. They'd have to keep their body entirely in motion. So think otter corkscrewing in a thermal vent for a couple seconds and then coming out all like squeaky clean. No, not based off of Greco-Roman. That was to spread. That was with a small amount of oil. Understand, Draconis will have giant fucking like communal baths worth of this oil. And if anything, they would be using these little metal or stone tools to carefully get up under their scales and clean and spread the oil in that way Because you're thinking Greco-Roman used sponges because skin. Draconis are gonna sit there and clean their scales with sharp instruments. Think. Most, there you go. Also, Nyx, I need to point out, you're still very much a distraction. But at the same time, well, welcome distraction. Oh, kinda. More accurately, what they would do is Draconis would have these semi-sharp, semi-rounded tools that are designed for effectively you'd scrape along underneath your scales with it while you're underneath the oil. So like body submerged up to your neck and you're just sitting there picking at your scales underneath the oil. Whatever comes up and out from underneath the scales comes off of you, settles down towards the bottom. At which point they would get up out of the oil and then they'd have this almost like leather cloth that they would use to press and scrape like down along their scales to get anything else out from underneath them, like to get the excess oil out. So think of it kind of like a tool that's designed for cleaning under your nails, but theirs would probably be designed specifically to go at multiple layers, like almost like a comb that you use for cleaning. Oh, I'll check that. I'll run that through a fucking thing later. God damn it. There we go. Thank you. Huh. Oh, I know I've been at this for about an hour and a half. Let's see. Hello, Johnson. All right. Normally, there wouldn't be much to tell about the process of a morning bath. Back home in Amaron, it would be a lavish affair, with scented powders and fine stone dust to help lift the dirt and oils away from my fur. Oh, how I've longed for such a comfort, but it's a far cry from what I've come to know as bathing in these accursed lands. If the fact that water is involved wasn't enough in the first place, the substance they insist I work through my fur would make most imperial citizens wince. The texture of the grayish white sludge they call soap can only be described as slimy. At very least, they try to hide the nauseating aroma of it by mixing in various local flowers and herbs, though it's hard to mask the smell of rendered animal fats once they've gone rancid. No matter how often it's been since I was brought here, I still have to fight the urge to retch as I claw that putrid mixture through my fur. Though there is something to be said for the final step of the process. They have a special cloth they use to remove the excess, and while it might work like that for my tribal cousins, it's far more abrasive for someone with a less sturdy coat. The sensation is truly hard to describe in simple terms. While it's not too unlike what I'd imagine it might feel like to peel away the upper layer of my own skin, I can't argue that it does at least manage to leave me feeling cleaner than when I began. I hate I hate how well that describes. I hate how well that describes the process. There we go. Oh. Hey, Stone Ferret. There's probably going to be a stream of some kind later tonight. Uh, but for now, I'm gonna get going. I'm gonna go hop into Discord and hang out with some friends before a Dungeons and Dragons style game that I run each Sunday. So I'll chat with you guys later. By the way, if anyone's interested in playing that or figuring out what that kind of game is like, it would put you as a character in the same world that this character here, or here rather, is in. It would let you live in part of this world. And this is just one setting from, well, many walks of life from for this setting here. As you remember, big fucking world. Anyways, ta-ta everybody. Thanks for coming in and showing up and sticking around, listening to me or watching me write. Oh, nom nom, all of the faces.